Jason Kelce retired today. Here's more from his retirement press conference.
So this all brings us here to today, where I announce that I am retiring. Where I announce I'm retiring from the NFL after 13 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles. And today, I must admit, I am officially overrated. Vastly overrated. It took a lot of hard work and determination getting here. I have been the underdog my entire career, and I mean this when I say it. I wish I still was. Few things gave me more joy than proving someone wrong. My mother used to tell people, and still says to this day, if you want Jason to do something, all you have to do is tell him he can't. And that was true in more ways than I care to admit. I relish doubters. They fueled a fire within. I suspect that comes from an upbringing where my parents would tell me, Jason, you can be anything in this world you want to, as long as you put your mind to it and work hard to achieve it. So whenever I was faced with doubt in my career, be it from fans, from coaches, even from my own teammates, the American dream would burn from deep inside my bones. Which leads to my last Jeff Stoutland quote. Hungry dogs run faster. Thank you, Philadelphia.
Jason Kelce was named to the first-team All-Pro team in 2023 for the 6th time in his career. He's one of 5 centers with at least 6 first-team All-Pro selections in NFL history. The other 4 on the list are members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now we welcome in Adam Schefter, Mina Dan Orlovsky here as well. Adam, how is Kelce's career viewed around the NFL?
Laura, first things first, Canton awaits Jason Kelce and his induction into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But you're talking about a 6-time All-Pro selection, a 7-time Pro Bowl selection, a world champion in Philadelphia, and somebody who is one of the sports icons in the city of Philadelphia. And he brought up the word underdog. And I think he always viewed himself as the underdog from the time he was a running back till he was moved to guard, till he was moved to center. And people forget that he came to Philadelphia in 2011, in the same year that the Eagles brought in the Dream Team with cornerback Nnamdi Asomugha and quarterback Vince Young and so many others. There were so many great things expected of an Eagles team that made so many moves that offseason. But the one move they made that offseason was taking Jason Kelce in the 6th round. And in the end, he had the most staying power. He left the biggest mark. He now leaves a huge gap in an organization where Cam Jurgens will take over for him. Jason Kelce endorsed him as his successor, but the fact of the matter is, with all the talent he had, with all the character he had, with all he meant to that team, that is not going to be an easy player and, more important, person to replace in the Eagles locker room.
Yeah, it's a big void for the Eagles. It's a big void for the NFL. You know, he's one of the best players and leaders and personalities of the NFL. I'm sure many of us hope he continues to stay a part of it. He's the best center that I've ever seen. I agree with Adam. He's a lock first-time Hall of Famer or first ballot Hall of Famer. I think 2 things stand out in regards to today. Number 1, the emotion that we saw from Jason is in many ways what most guys go through. They just don't have the opportunity or the career to have it public in that regard. And then 2, in many ways, it represents why football, in a lot of our eyes, is the greatest game in the world. Jason spoke so well about what football meant to him and how football really was like this vehicle of life for him, the relationships and the friendships and the love that he got to experience through football with not only himself and his teammates, but a city. And I think, at least in my time, I don't know if I've ever come across an athlete that was best suited for the city that they played in outside of Jason. And, watching that press conference, it's one of my favorite press conferences ever now, just the way he spoke about his teammates in the game of football.
Yeah, I think what stands out in my mind is the uniqueness of his skill set, the way he played the position. Quite simply, people who play center at that size aren't supposed to be able to move the way Jason Kelce did. There's so many examples of him pulling in key moments in big games. A lot of the highlights you see here are from the NFC Championship, where the next day, I remember we went on TV and I said, guys, I think we have to show center highlights. When have you ever heard that sentence said about a playoff game? But he was a highlight-worthy player. He was an offensive weapon, which is so unusual for that position, and so unusual that it really defined their run game. And moving forward, the void they have to fill, it's not just leadership and Cam Jurgens is going to step up and play that position, but it's so scheme specific because his unique skill set allowed them to do things in the run game they probably won't be able to do anymore because few teams can.
Mina just talked about, Dan, that void in Philly. Where does this leave Philly as they look ahead to next season?
Yeah, it's rebuilding one of the strongest units in the NFL. That 2 years ago, this was the strongest unit in the NFL, their offensive line. In a quick 24 months, it's no longer that. Last year in the offseason, they lost Isaac Seumalo to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and we probably overlooked that a little bit in his loss just because the interior of their line lost that mass. And now Jason moving on. We'll see if Cam Jurgens steps in and doesn't skip a beat. He played, guard over this past year, and probably better suited to be playing center. But they now have to really kind of focus on rebuilding the interior of their offensive line.
Kelce has started in 156 straight games for the Eagles. Just remarkable, especially at that position. Here's more from a cool moment, today's retirement press conference. Take a listen to Kelce talking about getting the call from Andy Reid to join the Eagles.
I won't forget the call I got from Andy Reid on draft day and my father rushing into the room. With tears streaming down his face as his son's dreams had just been realized. It had just been announced on TV I had been drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles. And I won't forget 2 years later, that same man and my brother receiving a call. And him being drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs. This time, the tears streaming down both my father and I's face as my brother had just realized his own